Hey, this is Primal Cam, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to create a very simple rebirth system that you can implement into obbies, tycoons, simulators. It doesn't matter what type of game you're creating. You can be creating a zombie horde game, you can be creating a shooter game. If it requires a rebirth system, which 9 times out of 10 you actually want a rebirth system in your games because it allows for infinite progression, because you're going to have a lot of hardcore players playing your games and they're going to get pretty far deep down the leaderboards. And the benefit of having a rebirth system into your game is it allows players to reset all their stats while gaining a cash multiplier, so it incentivizes them to actually reset from being top of the leaderboards to resetting again and just getting there faster. So this creates infinite progression. It's kind of like the perk system that you see in a lot of Call of Duty games. So let's go ahead and hop into the game right here and see exactly how it works. So on the left side of my screen right here, you can see that we have two buttons. We have a rebirth button and a cash button, and we have a starting value of 5,000 cash in our leader stats. So if we click the cash button, you can see that we increment by 10 cash every time we click that button. So every time we rebirth, we have a ×2 multiplier that's going to be applied to our cash value. So let's go ahead and rebirth. It's going to cost 1,000 cash to rebirth. So as you can see, we click the rebirth button and we decrement it down to 4,100 with a 1 rebirth. So next up, we're going to go ahead and click on the cash button, and you can see that we have a ×2 multiplier on that cash value. And so this applies to as many times as they want to scale up. So as they keep progressing and they have enough cash to actually rebirth, this incentivizes them to actually reset all their stats and begin again. This is very useful for creating infinite progression in your games, and you're gonna love it because this is what keeps players coming back, especially the competitive ones in your games. So let's go ahead and hop out of here and hop into the only module script that you're going to need for this entire template right here. If you want access to this template right here, you can get access to it down in the description below. And right here, if we hop into the rebirth module, we can see that we have a few default values set up right here. These are all very configurable. You can just set up the stat requirements. So whether this is gems, coins, or cash, or any type of currency that you may be using, you can set it up all right here. So the cash needed for a rebirth is it's going to cost you 1,000 right here. So that's the cost of a rebirth right here. This is the multiplier of each rebirth applied to that stat. And right here for the default value, this is the default value that is set for all rebirths of all players when they enter the game. So every player who enters the game is going to start off with a rebirth count of 0. So the next one, we have a function. This is the only function. This is the only function for this script right here. It's not a very complicated module script. So this right here, we check the player's leader stats, and if no leader stats is found, we just return the function. Next, we find their cash value stat in that leader stat. Then we find their rebirth stat, and if no cash or no rebirth is found, then we just return the function again. Next up, we check to see if the cash value is less than the requirement to purchase that cash. So this checks to make sure that they even have enough cash to purchase a rebirth in the first place. Otherwise, the increment in value for a rebirth is not gonna go through on the server side. So this right here deducts the cash we access the cash value of the leader stat, and we decrement it by the required amount of cash, which was that 1,000 cash, the cost to purchase 1 rebirth. And then we just increment the value of their rebirth leader stat value by 1. Then we're going to apply a multiplier attribute, and we're setting an attribute, so we're creating an attribute called cash multiplier, and we just access our multipliers cash and we times it by the rebirth value of the player. So what we're going to do right here is we're going to hop into the server side script to see exactly how we're applying this. But first of all, let's take a look at the leader stats. So the leader stats right here is just a very simple leader stats setup right here. We define our leader stats folder, we name it, and then we define our stats with a cash and a default value of 5,000. You can set this at 0 if you have another way of players gaining cash in your game, whether that's by clicking, whether that's by collecting coins, whether that's by doing a specific task. But this is going to be an int value, and we're going to parent that to the leader stat folder. Same thing with the rebirths. We're going to parent that to the leader stats folder, and we're setting that to 0. So this is the default values starting. These are very editable, very simple to understand. All you got to do is just make a few tweaks to this value or this value right here, and you can apply this to any leader stat that you create. So if you have more leader stat values, then you can just add more, or you can just remove them. So if we hop over here to the rebirth handler right here, we are listening for a remote event called a rebirth event that we define here in our replicated storage. So our replicated storage, you want to go ahead and create a remote event called rebirth event. I went ahead and created a cache click event. So this handles server side listening. So when the player clicks the rebirth button right here, it's going to send it from the client side all the way over to the server side, and we listen for it on the server side over here with our rebirth handler. So our rebirth event, we're calling on server event, connecting that to a function, passing in the player that clicked that button, that passed over that event. And if it was a successful pass of an event, then we go ahead and apply that rebirth. We check to see if the player has the rebirth value, the amount of cash that they need to actually increment their value by 1 rebirth for each time they click. Alright, so that's the basic simple process of it all. A lot of this stuff is not even necessary. I just put this in here for demo purposes, like the cache click handler. The cache click handler is just another event that I created to increment the cache. So this can be swapped out for any other way that you reward the player for doing a particular task. So the base cache is going to be 10 right here, and you get all this in the template. The base cache is going to be 10 right here, and every time a player clicks the button right here, it increments the value by +10. So that right there allows the player to accrue cash. Next up, if we hop up in the rebirth button, we have a local script right here. So this is the client side, and all you're doing, you see how short this script is? It's very simple to understand. All you're doing is firing to the remote event, a remote event to the server to listen for this particular remote event. So you have a rebirth event called rebirth event that you're sending over to the server to check to see if the player has enough cash in their bank to purchase a rebirth. If they have enough cash to purchase a rebirth, then it will apply to their leader stat value to increment their rebirth count to a +1 and allow a multiplier to take effect on the cash values. So it's very simple. You got 3 basic scripts in here. You have the local script, which is your client side, where you're sending to the server like, hey, I want to purchase a rebirth, do I have enough cash? And then you hop over here to the server side. The server side listens for that event and checks to see, well, let me check the rebirth module script that we created to see if the player has enough cash to purchase this particular rebirth. So if we hop back up in here, that server script listens and requires this module script right here to check and see if the player has enough cash to make a purchase. If they have enough cash to make a purchase, it will be a successful increment in terms of a multiplier and also their rebirth leader stat value. So that's it. It's a very simple system. That's what it boils down to just create any type of rebirth system. It's very scalable. You can add multiple stat values, you can add multiple multipliers, and it's very customizable in terms of applying this to pretty much any game that you want to add infinite replayability to. So that's it. You can get a copy of this template right here down in the description below, and all of this comes with it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.